Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajanghraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Gobhramana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Namasarvebhyo Sarvesham Krite Swagatam. So we have completed the 9 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita by the last session. So our plan was that before we go to the 10th chapter, we will do a review of whatever we learned in the first 9 chapters. Now, there are quite a few concepts across those 9 chapters. So my plan was to review 3 chapters at one time instead of reviewing all the 9 chapters in one class. So I went through the first 3 chapters to collate the points. We'll begin with the question of what is the objective of the Bhagavad Gita? What is the overarching message of the Bhagavad Gita? And this is what it is. The Bhagavad Gita is a book of happiness. Not just ordinary happiness, but happiness which is characterized by at least 3 prominent properties. Happiness which is pure, happiness which is infinite, and happiness which is eternal. Okay, 3 properties, 3 dimensions of happiness which the Bhagavad Gita describes. So what do I mean by these? Because all of us know what happiness is. And all of us have that one thing in common, that we are all looking for happiness. Okay, we are all doing very different things. They're all distinct from each other. And there are so many more billions of people in this world who are also doing different things. But there's one thing common to all the 8 billion people of this world, that they're all looking for happiness in whatever they do. So happiness is nothing new. So what are these 3 properties which makes the Bhagavad Gita stand out from what we already know? Happiness, that which is pure, refers to happiness which does not require the decrease of another person's happiness for my happiness. So normally in this world, when we try to become more happy, often what happens is that the process involves making someone else less happy, because there is a certain amount of selfishness involved in getting happiness. Okay, of course, there are many situations where multiple parties can become happy together. But very often, we see a lot of times when people try to become more happy, they have to do it at the cost of someone else becoming less happy. So there is a certain type of defect in the happiness that we inherently get. Whereas the happiness described in the Bhagavad Gita is that happiness by which no one else becomes unhappy by one person becoming happy. Everybody can become happier together. Second is infinite. Okay, now the happiness that we experience in this world is limited. It is finite. It is not infinite. For example, let's just visualize anything that can make us happy. Let's say eating some nice food item. Okay, eating a samosa. Samosa is a tasty item. All of us like it. So we have hot, fresh samosa with meaty chutney, and we like it. So we eat it, feel happy when we do that. Okay, now I had one samosa. I feel very good. Want to have the second one. The second one is also nice. I have the third one. I have the fourth one. Now keep extending this, keep adding one more. And at some point, I have to stop. Because beyond that, the samosa doesn't any longer taste like a samosa. Probably start tasting like cardboard or something else. I mean, what I mean is my tongue's capacity to derive enjoyment from that samosa, although it's the same thing, is limited. And so the amount of happiness that I can get from that activity stops at some point of time. It saturates. Beyond that, there is no happiness. The happiness described in the Gita is of the nature that it does not saturate. It only increases. It's increasing, ever increasing happiness. Okay. The third property is the property of eternality, nityatva. So the happiness we get in this world is always temporary. We become happy for some time. Let us say I have the intelligence to stop eating after 2 samosas. Okay, I'm smart enough. I'll say, okay, 2 samosas is what I can digest. I'll eat that much. Now that gives me happiness for half an hour or so because it's there. I had samosa. That feeling of joy, the feeling of contentment from that samosa I got. I went to the best shop in town. I had it. I'm happy. Again, after some time, the craving comes back. If not for samosa, for something else. Okay, I'm again perturbed by something. I again have to look for happiness, fresh. So any kind of happiness that is produced in this world, I'm using samosa as a metaphor. You can replace that with any other form of happiness that we get in this world. Has the same property of limitedness. Temporary and not pure. Lasts for some time, then it's over. Look for something else after that. Okay, so the Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to acquire or how to pursue happiness and what is that happiness, where is it found, how we can acquire it. And it says that every living being, it's not only one type of person or other type of person, every living being is entitled to this happiness and is capable of experiencing this happiness. So the question naturally comes, if such happiness is possible for me, then why am I not experiencing it now? And what should I do to obtain such happiness? So the entire Gita is about this. It's a book of happiness. And all the thing that is spoken there is actually pointed towards that. So whatever we see, whatever concept we see, we should see from that lens. Whether it will take us towards more happiness or less happiness, whether it will take us towards that pure, infinite, eternal happiness, or happiness of an inferior degree, which we are already experiencing, right? So now, like I just said, I reviewed the first 3 chapters of Gita, and the 3 chapters out of the 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita consist of 162 shlokas. The first chapter has 47 shlokas, the second chapter 72, and the third chapter has 43. Totally 162. That's slightly more than 1/5 of the Gita is covered in it. But even though in content it's about 1/5, it covers, first 3 chapters themselves cover quite a lot of things that the Gita says otherwise also. Of course, what is not covered in the first 3 chapters in a predominant way is bhakti, the path of bhakti yoga, which is the predominant path given in the Bhagavad Gita. That is not covered so much. It's very indirectly referred to in the first 3 chapters. So the first chapter begins with Arjuna's confusion. As we all know, Arjuna is situated there on the chariot and he is about to begin the war, blows the conch shell. Krishna is with him. So he is actually leading in the sense that he is in the front. Of course, he is not the commander-in-chief of the army at that point of time, but he is one of the foremost warriors. So the conch shell on the Pandavas side is first blown by him, and then Krishna, and then by all the others. And that signals the beginning of the war. And at that point of time, he says, I want to see the warriors on both the sides. And when he sees that, he says, Krishna, for some reason, I don't want to fight. And he gives arguments about why he doesn't want to fight. I don't want to kill them. If I kill them, this will happen, that will happen. I will only get pap. Where is the dharma in this? There is no dharma in this. So he gives a number of arguments. In the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna tries to convince him. He says, I don't approve what you're doing. Krishna disapproves it. But Arjuna doesn't take that disapproval. He still refuses to fight. So the first 10 shlokas of the second chapter also go in that manner. From the 11th shloka of the second chapter onwards, Sri Bhagavan starts speaking. Okay, so essentially, Sri Bhagavan's response begins from the 11th shloka of the second chapter, and then through the rest of the Gita. In between, Arjuna keeps asking questions, and Krishna patiently answers them. So in the first 3 chapters, among these shlokas, leaving out the first chapter, Arjuna's confusion, I could identify 6 dominant themes. So I did a sort of a thematic analysis, and I've classified the ideas given there into 6 broad themes like this. The first theme is the distinction between the Atma and the Deha. The second theme is about what Sri Bhagavan says is our greatest enemy, or a very great enemy. It's called Kama, also known as Krodha. Kama and Krodha, he uses the words to refer to the same thing. Then the third theme is what I call Samanya Dharma. The fourth theme, the distinction between Parodharma and Samanya Dharma. The fifth theme is Karma Yoga, which is the dominant topic of the third chapter. And the sixth theme is Sthita Pragya, the famous word Sthita Pragya, and associated with this is the concept of Loka Sangraha. Okay, so I have sort of thematically divided all the information in these first three chapters into these six themes. So today I will explain these themes one by one, and let me see how much I can cover in the time that we have. In case we fall short of time, then I will stop wherever we have reached, and then we can continue in the next session from there, right? So I'll begin with the very first theme. So we just said that the aim of the Gita is happiness, to help us discover happiness which is pure, infinite, and eternal. Now, Sri Bhagavan says that the very first thing to know towards this happiness is to understand that we, each one of us, is not this body. Each living being is not the material body that we see. It is an Atma which lives in the body. The living being is the Atma. Each one of us is the Atma. In the 7th chapter, he uses the term Para-prakriti, Apara-prakriti. Apara means inferior. Para means superior. This material body is made of matter. This is called Apara-prakriti. The Jivatma is made of something that is totally different from matter. It is consciousness. So it is Para-prakriti. It is superior prakriti, superior nature. Okay. So the first 20 shlokas that Sri Bhagavan speaks, from the 2nd chapter's 11th shloka to the 30th shloka, 20 shlokas, exactly 20 shlokas, he spends on driving in this point, drilling this point into Arjuna's head and through him to us, the distinction between the Atma and the Deha. So as I went through these 20 shlokas, I could identify 9 dimensions on which he distinguishes, 9 properties, and I'm going to now list those 9 properties. Okay, you can pay attention to them. 9 properties for the difference between the Atma and the Deha. The first is the property of eternality, or Sat, the property of Sat. The Atma, the living being, has no creation. It has no destruction also. It is always existing. It is eternal. There was never a time when the Atma was not existing. Sri Bhagavan says in the 12th shloka of the 2nd chapter, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha. There was never a time when I did not exist, you did not exist, nor all these people. Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarvevaya mataf param. There will never be a time in the future when you will cease to exist, or I will cease to exist, or they will all cease to exist. The very first point he makes is this. And then he goes on to elaborate on this. He keeps repeating again and again across these. You can see that I have put the numbers of the shlokas where they come. Okay, 2.12 means the 12th shloka of the 2nd chapter. 2.20 means the 20th shloka of the 2nd chapter, and so on. So in all these shlokas, he goes on pointing out that the Atma is eternal, ever existing, never non-existent. Because never a time when there was Atma did not exist. There will never be a time in the future when Atma is non-existent. In fact, the whole idea of time as we experience it now, Kala, is matter, is a form of matter. So the Atma, because it's not matter, it is beyond time. It will never come under the influence of time. It is always above time. So you cannot even actually meaningfully talk about Atma as before and after. There's no before and after for the Atma. It is always in the present. Right? There's no Kala for it. The Deha, in contrast, the body that we experience, is exactly the opposite of this. The body has an existence, has a creation. It comes into existence at some point of time. We say biologically, we say conception or birth. And then there is death. At the point of death, the body becomes again non-existent. After death, it merges into matter, and we can no longer say there is so-and-so's body there. It's not there anymore, right? It becomes non-existent. The second property is the property of Chit, or consciousness, or sentience. In English, this word sentience means consciousness, awareness, consciousness. Okay, consciousness also is a synonym in Vedanta for knowledge, bodh, knowing. Awareness means knowledge, right? So the Atma is consciousness. So there are two ways of saying it. The Atma has consciousness, means consciousness is a property of the Atma. The other way that Vedanta describes it is Atma is consciousness. Not just has consciousness, Atma itself is consciousness. Atma is not separate for consciousness. Atma is Jnana. Atma and Jnana are not different. Right? Not only Atma has Jnana, but Atma is Jnana. Whereas the body has no consciousness. Body is insentient in English. Insentient means it has no consciousness. It's made of matter. And it just dies. It has no knowledge. Body has no knowledge. It's the Atma which has knowledge. The Atma experiences its knowledge through the bodily parts like the brain and so on. But it's not the brain which has knowledge. It's the Atma, which is different from the brain, which has the knowledge. The third property is the property of what can be said in English to be imperviousness. Imperviousness means that which cannot be cut, or you can, like chapati, we make dough, right? You squeeze it, it changes its shape. You can't change the shape of the Atma. You can't cut the Atma. Okay, so there are two shlokas here where Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha. So weapons cannot cut the Atma. You cannot burn the Atma with fire. You cannot wet the Atma with water. Because these are all matter. Water, fire, weapons, they're all made of matter. Matter cannot do anything to the Atma. Matter and Atma are two distinct things. So, of course, all these points are very relevant in the context of Arjuna saying, I don't want to kill my relatives. Because in Arjuna's mind, his arrows are going to cut their bodies, right? He's going to cut their neck with his sword. But actually, Krishna says, okay, you will cut the body only, you will not cut the Atma. The living being is always alive. Don't worry about it. Go kill them. Don't worry. Later on, he will talk about how that karma of killing somebody, when it incurs and when it does not come. When that karma, one is free from that karma. Okay, we'll come to that point later. Now, we are talking about the properties of the Atma as distinct from the Deha. The third property is the property of imperviousness. The fourth property, immeasurability, aprameyatvam. The body, you can talk about the body as big, small, tall, short, fat. You can measure the body, you can quantify it. Whereas the Atma cannot be quantified, cannot be measured. You cannot say the Atma is so big or so small. Okay. So this is also a result of the subtle nature of the Atma. We'll come to that. The Atma, because it's very subtle, it doesn't have a size. It doesn't have a material size. Okay. So there is one analogy still given in the Upanishads, in the Veda, in the Upanishads. Shatagrasata bhagasya shatadha kalpitasya cha bhago jivaha sa vigneyaha. The Jivatma, if you take a hair, take the tip of the hair, which is obviously very small, divide that into 100 parts, and take one of those parts and again divide that into 100 parts, which means it becomes 1 by 10,000 of that. Then that can be said to be the size of the Atma. Okay. So now you will say that can be measured. It may be some 10 raised to the power of 9 or something. That's fine, but it's still measured. No. This idea here is not to say that's the measure of the Atma. The idea here is to say the Atma is smaller than the smallest, means it has no size. There's nothing which you can say is smaller than the Atma. There's nothing. How much ever you talk about nanotechnology, whatever it is, there's nothing which is smaller than the Atma because the Atma has no size at all. Okay, that's the idea. Then, a related property is the property of subtlety. Means the Atma is avyakta. Avyakta means that which has no vyaktitva. It doesn't have a manifestation. Like the gross body. The gross body is manifested to us. We see it. We feel it. We can interact with it. We can perceive it. Whereas the Atma cannot be seen. It doesn't have a physical manifestation. It can never be seen. Right? So this is the Atma. The sixth property is the property of pervasiveness. The Atma pervades the Jivatma. So here we talk about Atma of two types. The Jivatma pervades the body in which it's currently occupying. For example, this Jivatma has occupied a body called Ajit. Okay, so this Jivatma is now experiencing that body, and its consciousness pervades this body. Right? Similarly, for each of you, you have occupied some body, and in that body, you are conscious of the parts of that body. If somebody, let's say, touches your feet, let us say, then you can feel it. You get knowledge. Knowledge happens that somebody has touched my feet. If a mosquito sits on your hand, or a mosquito is sitting on my hand. Okay. So there is consciousness within the body. Your consciousness makes you aware of what happens in the body. In the same way, the Paramatma's consciousness is all pervasive. Maya tatamidam sarvam. Everything is pervaded by him, by that consciousness, entire universe. So the property of being all pervasive is present in the Atma, pervasiveness. Whereas this property is not in the body. The body doesn't pervade anything. It just is there. It experiences, it provides experience to the Atma. That's all. It doesn't have its own experience of consciousness. Incomprehensibility. The Atma is said to be very difficult to understand or impossible to comprehend. Achintya. The word achintya is used in Sanskrit. Means with the mind, you cannot understand the Atma. Theoretically, yes, we can talk about it in this manner. But what exactly? So you say it doesn't have a size, it doesn't have it cannot be cut, it cannot be transformed. Then what is it? Is there something that can really exist like that? With the mind, it cannot be comprehended, because the mind is used to comprehending only material things which have size, which have different types of transformable properties, which are temporary, which are destructible. So when something that the mind is completely not used to, mind itself is material, right? So is presented to it, the mind is not capable of comprehending it. So the Atma cannot be comprehended. It's incomprehensible. This is the seventh property. The eighth property is the property of immutability, or the property of no transformation. Okay, the earlier property we spoke about, imperviousness, is about cutting the Atma, burning the Atma, etc. Here is the property of transforming the Atma. So even if it cannot be cut or something, maybe can it just evolve? Can the Atma evolve over time? No. The Atma has no evolution in terms of its physicality. Okay, we talk about evolution in terms of knowledge. That's a different kind of evolution. But here, when we talk about immutability, the Atma cannot be transformed like the way the body is transformed. The body is always transformed, right? Even biological sciences say that. The cells in the body are continuously being replaced. It's a continuous process. And in a cycle of 7 years, it is said that the entire body, all the millions of cells together in the body, over a period of 7 years, are completely replaced by new cells. Which means if you go back to a point of time exactly 7 years from now, the body that you have now, you didn't have at that time. You had a different body. Or I had a different body. But I don't realize it, because the change happened in a very incremental manner, very minute, infinitesimal manner. Small changes happened continuously over a period of time. If all of a sudden the Atma is taken out from one body and put into another body, then it will obviously be in a state of shock if that happens, right? But it doesn't happen that way. Because it doesn't happen that way, we don't feel that anything has changed. We may at most say that, oh, you become taller, you become fatter, you become thinner. That's all. But continuous transformation happens in the body all the time. And at a larger scale, we say the body has grown from being a child to an adult to old age, and finally it has died. So the body is asat, where the Atma is sat. And the final property, the ninth property, is the property of immovability. The Atma is described as achalaha, sthanuhu. It is always in one place. Atma never moves. The body is moving. The body experiences movement because of space, because of its contact with space. Space is matter. Space is also a form of matter. One of the different elements of matter is akash, or kham, and that is space. So it's more subtle than things like earth, water, air, fire, and so on, but it is still a form of matter. So because of the body's contact with space, the body and other elements of matter move in space, whereas the Atma does not move in space. The Atma is always where it is, in one place. But because of its contact with the body and its conception of being the body, the conception of being the body, the Atma, the living being, experiences movement. So whatever movement we experience is only because of our attachment to the body, not because we actually are moving. It's a perception of movement. Okay. So the body has, the Atma has no movability. Atma is immovable, it's achala, whereas the body is movable. So in this manner, at least 9 distinct properties or 9 dimensions on which the body is different from matter. I beg your pardon. The Atma is different from the body. The Atma is different from matter. Atma Deha. This difference, Sri Bhagavan brings out in these 20 shlokas. And he points out very, very explicitly that he says, Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya, navani grihnati naroparani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani, anyani sanyati navani dehi. Just like a human being discards their old clothes. When the cloth becomes old, we discard that cloth and just wear a new cloth. Exactly in the same manner, when the body becomes old, the Atma discards that body and occupies a new body. So the Atma discards old bodies and moves new bodies. Or you can say rejects old bodies and accepts new bodies. So here Sri Bhagavan points out that it is knowledge of the Atma. This is the first requirement of spiritual knowledge. If we want to experience pure, infinite and eternal happiness, as Bhagavad-Gita teaches us, then the ABC of that is this difference between the Atma and the body. If we don't understand this, then we can't really understand the rest of the knowledge given in the Bhagavad-Gita. All the other knowledge which is going to come, we talk about Karma Yoga, we talk about Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyan. We talk about so many things in the Bhagavad-Gita. All of them can be understood as they are meant to be understood only if we first appreciate this difference between the Atma and the Deha. And understand that we as Atma can experience that happiness inside ourselves and not in the body. Okay, that is the reason why this distinction is being told. So this is the first theme of the Bhagavad Gita, very first theme. And with this, we'll go forward and ask this question. If the Atma has pure knowledge or is pure knowledge, then why does it not experience that? Okay, why are we not experiencing that pure knowledge? Why are we not conscious of it? In fact, for many people, when we say this, that you are the Atma, you're not this body. For many people, this looks very abstract. Some of them appreciate it intellectually. Sounds good. But some of them just take it as just a belief. It's a superstition. All this reincarnation is just people's belief, old-fashioned belief. There's nothing like that. There's only one birth. There's no Atma. Right? The Atma is not easy to accept also. So let's say we accept the Atma. Then naturally, the question comes is this. Even after accepting the Atma, the doubt comes, okay, you said Atma has inherent happiness in it and we can experience the happiness. Then why are we not experiencing it now? Right? And that is where the second theme of the Gita is this. Sri Bhagavan says, actually Sri Arjuna asked this question to Krishna. He says, why is it that even when a man knows that something is wrong and that wrong will create pap, okay, he understands that usse pap milta hai. ये करेंगे तो पाप आएगा. श्रद्धा है उसमें, फिर भी वो पाप करता है. He still does the wrong thing. He is not able to avoid the pap. Why does that happen? So in answer to that, Sri Bhagavan speaks several shlokas. And this is from both the second and the third chapters. He says kama. There's something called kama. Kama simply means the desire to enjoy. Okay, kama does not always mean sexual desire. Sensual desire or sexual desire is one meaning of kama. But more generally, any kind of engagement with matter with the intention to seek enjoyment from it. Okay, in any way that I seek enjoyment from matter, whether it's eating food or watching something on TV and experiencing the pleasure of whatever I'm watching, like a movie or a cricket match, or in any other manner, getting something through my senses and enjoying it. That is kama. That desire is kama. Now he says this is an enemy, and he uses two words along with kama, or rather one more word along with kama, and that is krodha, anger. So kama and krodha, the desire to enjoy and the experience of anger, are actually synonymous in some sense. They are actually two names of the same thing. That enemy, Krishna says, Mahavairi. It's a great enemy. Okay, so why is it an enemy? Why is it given? Why is it accorded the status of an enemy? Right? So here it is. This desire for enjoyment, it happens through our senses. It's because the senses are craving for their objects. That's how it manifests. Okay, it's there inside. It's along with the Atma. The Atma does not have it inherently, but the Atma attaches itself to that desire. Desire is not, you can say, a property of the pure Atma. The pure Atma is free from desire also. But because of its contact with matter, this desire develops in the Atma to enjoy that matter. And that manifests through the senses. It manifests through the senses craving for the sense objects. So this is what forces us to do papa. And Sri Bhagavan says this is extremely wicked. He says Mahapapma, and Mahashana means supremely devouring. It comes under the influence of Rajoguna. Later on in the 14th chapter, he will distinguish between the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Kama and Krodha are products of Rajoguna, the influence of Rajoguna. Kama covers one's true knowledge. The Atma is true knowledge, but because of Kama, the true knowledge is covered. And in the 38th shloka in the 3rd chapter, Sri Bhagavan uses metaphors. He uses three metaphors to indicate that the Kama covers jnana. Kama covers knowledge at three levels. At level 1 is like a fire being covered by smoke. Okay, so we see a fire burning somewhere. We also see smoke around that fire. So we can't always see the flames. Sometimes the flames are visible, but sometimes they are not visible because there's a smoke covering them. Okay, that's one level of covering. The second level of covering is just like a mirror, which is covered by dust. And the third level is an embryo, which is covered by the womb of the mother, the garbha. Okay, so three levels of covering of kama, covering of jnana by kama. Kama covers jnana, the pure knowledge. And that is the reason why we don't experience our knowledge. Okay, so why are they said to be at three levels? These metaphors, Sri Vishnu Chakravarti explains this. He says that when fire covers smoke, I beg your pardon, when fire is covered by smoke, we cannot see the flames all the time. We sometimes see the flames. At the same time, fire can still perform its function of burning. Okay, if you want to heat something, you can still heat it with that fire. Even if there is smoke, the function of heating will still happen. So when somebody is quite pure, there is still some calm in them. There is some level of purity in them. So they are aware of their spiritual knowledge and they are practicing. They are able to practice and act in accordance with that spiritual knowledge. They are not driven away by lust, but they are not free from lust. So lust is existing, or kama is existing at a very sort of a not so harmless, not so harmful manner, in not so harmful manner. Okay, that is one level. The second level is mirror covered by dust. When dust covers the mirror, even though we can feel the mirror and we know there is a mirror here, the mirror is visible. The reflection of the mirror is not visible. The reflection in the mirror is not visible. What is the mirror's function to do? Reflection, to give us reflection. So the mirror's function is gone. The mirror does not perform its function because of the dust which is covering it. The mirror is visible to us, but the reflection is not visible. So in the same manner, for a person whose kama is at that level, the person may be theoretically aware of spiritual knowledge. The person may theoretically acknowledge, yeah, I am an Atma, I know that. Gita mein to kaha hi hai, Bhagavan to kehte hain, so he will speak. but he is not able to act on it. He is not able to behave in accordance with that knowledge. That knowledge is there theoretically. Okay, so he can feel that, yeah. I do agree, the Atma is there. मैं मानता हूँ, पर तो कुछ करता नहीं हूँ. That kind of situation, right? So this is the second level. The third level is when the person is completely blind. The person does not even theoretically accept. Is completely ignorant. Okay, so it's just like the embryo covered by the womb. Okay, we cannot see the embryo. Nobody can see it. Nobody can make out. And the embryo also cannot do anything. It is just there. It just exists. It's alive. It exists, but it cannot. It's totally helpless. Cannot perform any function, right? Nor can anyone interact with it. It's just there in the mother's body waiting to come out at the right time. So 3 levels at which karma covers one knowledge. And this is why it is a great enemy. It comes in the way of our experiencing the happiness that we are entitled to experience. And it deludes us. It makes us think of happiness being somewhere else. It makes us think that happiness lies in this matter. Whereas the happiness that we are entitled to lies inside us. The happiness is actually inside us. It takes us away from that and makes us think the happiness is somewhere else. That is why it's a very great enemy. It's just like somebody, let's say that you go to a bank and you're supposed to get your money from the bank. And the manager, instead of telling you how to withdraw your money, which you're entitled to withdrawing, wants to cheat you. So gives you instructions by which you don't end up getting your money. You get something else, which is not your money. It seems like you're getting your money, but you end up getting something else, and the manager quietly makes off with your money. Okay, I'm just giving a theoretical example. Imagine a situation like that. There are so many scams happening in this world. People take money in the name of investment funds, right? Chit funds, this and that. Exactly like that. They make you feel that they are actually protecting your money, but end up giving you something else. You don't get anything from them. You only give money to them. At the end of it, they are having your money and you have nothing. You only have suffering. It's exactly like that. Karma makes us think that happiness lies in something where it does not lie. Takes us away from the real happiness that we are entitled to, which is inside us. And thereby it cheats us. It's our enemy. Okay, simple logic. So Sri Bhagavan points out that karma can never be satisfied. It appears that by responding to it, responding to a craving, one can satisfy it and the craving will go away. But it never happens because we respond to the craving, we have the samosa, but the craving goes away for only a short while. After that, the craving comes back in a different form. Right? We want to have something else again. So it can never be permanently satisfied. It operates through the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. The senses are very powerful. Even a very learned person, Sri Bhagavan says, can be taken away. His senses can drag him away from where he is. And this is how the senses work, how karma works through the senses. How it begins is through Vishaya Dhyana. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate. 2 shlokas, the second chapter, 62nd and 63rd shloka. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha, meditating on the objects of the senses. Sangasteshu Upajayate. Attachment develops to those senses, to those objects of the senses. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. So this kama then comes out, starts manifesting itself. It's already there, it manifests now. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Kamat Krodho Bijayate. After kama manifests, Krodha comes. Why Krodha comes? Because something comes in the way, right? We have unlimited calm. There is no end to the calm that we have. So because we have unlimited calm, it's not possible to satisfy it. Because it's not possible to satisfy it, something has come in the way and we become angry with it. Whatever comes in the way of satisfying our calm, we become angry, Krodha. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. From Krodha comes delusion. We get deluded. Anger leads to delusion. We think the right thing as the wrong thing and the wrong thing as the right thing. So the loss of discrimination between right and wrong. That's called sammoha. Sammohat smriti bhramshaha. Smriti bhramshaha means loss of memory. Memory of what? Now, if we are studying the Shastra, then memory of Shastra, what we heard in the Shastra, goes away from us. It's no longer there in the memory. And that is why the discrimination between right and wrong is lost. Or if we did not study Shastra, at least somebody gave us good advice. Maybe our mother gave us good advice. Mother said, don't do it. It's bad for you. I'm telling you again and again, do your homework. Don't do that. But no, I did that. Similarly, teachers said something, or somebody, at least a friend said something. But all that advice goes away. Memory is gone. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha. From that, complete loss of intelligence. Okay, one by one. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. So once intelligence is lost, then the person can do anything. Anything. There's no fear anymore. Fear is replaced by stupidity. So once in a while, we get news like somebody killed their girlfriend. Okay, somebody went and murdered their own parents. Complete loss of intelligence. Do something very foolish, and what happens? Then the person gets into trouble. Very intense trouble. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. And this pranash is not only about getting into trouble with the police. It's about getting into trouble with the universal system of karma, by which the Jivatma falls down in samsara. Okay, so now we have a human body. The human body is able to discriminate between right and wrong. We talk morality. The human being is able to talk about ethics, morality. Animals don't talk about ethics, right? They just live by instinct. Animals don't have conscious ethics. They have their own natural ethics. They know what is right and wrong as their instinct drives them. For example, a tiger will not go and eat grass. A deer will not eat meat. They eat their respective foods and they live by the way they are designed. But human being wants to eat grass as well as meat, both, right? No discrimination. So I'm giving again metaphorically. So we don't use discrimination, although we are capable of discrimination. So this is why intelligence goes and we drop down in samsara. We go to lower levels of samsara. So Shri Bhagavan goes on explaining how sense experiences must be tolerated because they are always attacking us. They're always attacking us in different ways, and we should learn to tolerate them. In different ways, we tolerate them. For example, in the winter months, okay, sadhana must be performed. A person who wants to spiritually elevate themselves, sadhana must be performed every day, always. But in the month of, say, January, or now we're going in December, somehow, I don't know why, but this winter it's not so cold. At least right now it's not so cold. It should have been colder. But it's going to get colder after some time. But early morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, you're supposed to get up and do dhyan. It's very uncomfortable, no doubt about it. Okay. So recently I saw a forward in which somebody is sitting there, it's fully covered in his rajai and drinking chai. And he's labeled it Rajai Chai Asan. Okay, that's humorous. Nice. It's nice humor, but that's reality also. Right? We're not able to get out of the rajai. But sadhana means we have to get out of the rajai. We have to learn how to tolerate that misery which comes. If we are able to tolerate that, then that opens the door to the knowledge which gives us eternal happiness. That's the point he's trying to make. Tolerance of misery, tolerance of miseries which come from the senses, and tolerance of happiness which comes from the senses. The happiness which comes, don't go behind it infinitely. Tolerate, regulate, stop it, control it. Then that opens the doors to happiness. So Shri Bhagavan uses the metaphor of how a boat, let's say a boat without an anchor, okay? Let's say we're just there, a boat is left on water and the boatman forgot to tie it, or he tied it, but somehow he didn't tie it tightly enough, the rope. After some time, the wind is blowing, the boat gently drags away. What does the wind do? The wind just drags the boat away on water, and after some time, the boatman comes back and the boat is no longer there. Where did it go? Somewhere far away he can see it is just drifted away. The wind has taken it away, right? Exactly like that. He says, just like this, our desires, the karma, through our senses, they drag our intelligence away. They just drag us away, and they take us to a place which we never thought we will reach. We look back and say, oh, where was I and where have I reached now? I've completely fallen into this. Okay, this is how fall down happens. So Shri Bhagavan says in the end of the 3rd chapter, he says the senses, these indriyani paranyahu, the senses are superior to the objects. The objects should not be dragging the senses. The senses should be able to withhold themselves. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriyebhya param manaha. Superior to the senses. The senses are superior to their objects, but even superior to the senses is the mind. Indriyebhya param manaha. Manasastu paraha para buddhihi. Manasastu para buddhihi. Superior to the mind is intelligence or buddhi. Yo buddhehe paratastu saha. Even superior to the intelligence is saha, means atma. The living being, you or me, each one of us, the atma is even superior to our buddhi, intelligence. And therefore he says, knowing that you are superior to your intelligence, now control your intelligence, and through the intelligence control the mind, and through the mind control the senses in a manner that they don't get carried away by the sense objects. Very beautifully he explains this, and he says that essentially success and real happiness comes by regulating the senses. It's not that you should refrain completely, you should not completely refrain the senses from their objects. That's not what I'm trying to tell you, Shri Bhagavan says. He says, what I'm trying to tell you is regulate the contact of the senses with the objects. Do it in a regulated manner, whatever you want to do, and experience that happiness to the extent that it is required, but not anymore. Okay, so this is the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is the second theme of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I will do one more theme for today, the third theme, and then I will stop, and then we can have questions, any questions or doubts that you have. The third theme that is was visible to me when I did this reading was the theme of what I have termed as Samanya Dharma. Sri Bhagavan refers to it as Dharma. Dharma is the all-pervasive topic of all our Shastra. The Veda, the Mahabharata, Ramayana is all about Dharma. So the Bhagavad Gita is about Dharma. And Sri Bhagavan says in the 4th chapter, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam shajamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I come again and again, yuga after yuga, because I want to establish Dharma. So what is Dharma? Defined in the Mahabharata, Dharanat Dharmaha ityahuhu dharmena vidritah prajaha yatsya dharana sanyuktaha sa dharma iti katyate. Dharma is that which sustains, that which bears. Okay? So Samanya Dharma, which I have translated into English as righteous materialism. The predominant idea of Dharma is how to live happily in this material existence. So a predominant theme of the Veda is the basis for the Shastra, predominant theme of the Veda. And you will see again in Mahabharata, in Ramayana also, is about how one can live ethically, properly, in the right conduct. What is the right conduct? What is the right thing to do? What should not be done? What is wrong? Right versus wrong. Very elaborately discussed so that people can live happily in this material existence, in whatever they are doing. Live a happy existence and become happier, become materially happier. He's not talking about that infinite happiness, pure infinite happiness, which the Gita is giving. Gita goes beyond this. But before we go there, let's understand what this happiness is about. Okay, this is what I call Samanya Dharma. And Sri Bhagavan explains that the Samanya Dharma that I have given you is based on karma. Karma means doing our duty, doing our work. Everybody has their prescribed duties. Now, in the system of the Veda, Sri Bhagavan creates the Varnashrama system. Okay, that's called the civilized society. Civilized society is society which is willing to follow discipline and live by prescriptions. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. It's called the Varnashrama system. The 4 classes, social classes in the 4 stages of life. And within that, this framework of 4x4, there is a set of duties for everybody, for everything, every situation, do's and don'ts, rights and wrongs, everything is given. So live by that, Sri Bhagavan says. If you live by that, you will not have any problem. And in return for that, you earn what is called as punya. If you do your duty, karma, then you get punya. If you don't do your duty, you get papa. Punya versus papa. So punya versus papa is the reward and punishment system. that is prescribed in Samanya Dharma. Samanya Dharma runs on the wheels of Punya and Papa. Aspire for Punya and try to avoid Papa. Essentially, it boils down to that. So duties protects one from Papa, hence one should not be nervous in doing it. He tells Arjuna, don't be nervous, because Arjuna was arguing that if I kill my guru, if I kill my grandfather, if I kill my cousins, I'll get Pap. He says, don't worry, this is a duty that has come to you now. So just do it. Don't bother, it will not give you Pap. In fact, you should be happy that now the opportunity has come. How many people get the chance to fight a Dharma Yuddha? How many Kshatriyas get, right? Most people won't. Even today in the army, in a country which is largely peaceful, let's say India, for example, is a largely peaceful country, right? At least most of the time, we don't have a war with another country. Sometimes there is some small war with China, sometimes with Pakistan, sometimes with some other country, but it's very rare. It's once in a while in a small localized manner. So most of the military doesn't get to fight a war. They're there in the military. They perform their day-to-day activities being part of the military. They don't fight a war. But here, suddenly somebody gets to fight a war, and fighting a Dharma Yuddha is considered an even better chance to get Punya than just being a Kshatriya and doing your day-to-day Kshatriya activities, right? And if you're killed in a Dharma Yuddha, if somebody is killed, for example, now Arjuna has the job of killing his relatives, okay? What will happen to them? Because they are fighting a Dharma Yuddha and they are killed in a Dharma Yuddha, even if they have done pap of other types, like people like Duryodhana have done some pap, no doubt about that. But even given that, they will still go to Swarga because they are killed in a Dharma Yuddha. That is the benefit of being fighting a Dharma Yuddha according to the principles of Dharma and dying in a Dharma Yuddha. So he says, don't worry. There's nothing to worry, because if you kill them, they will go to heaven. If you get killed, you will go to heaven. If you don't get killed, you will enjoy this earth. So whichever way, it's a win-win situation. Don't worry about it. That is Samanya Dharma. That's the thinking of Samanya Dharma. But if you avoid one's prescribed duty, your prescribed duty, because you've been told to do this now, if you avoid it, what will happen? People will just laugh at you. You're such a noble person. Just ran away from here. अरे डर गया, क्या आदमी है यार ये, सब कुछ डाल के आया है, शंख भी बजा दिया, उसके बाद छोड़ के भाग गया यहाँ से. इतना डरपोक आदमी, बचपन से बहुत दिखा रहा था, अब मालूम पड़ा इसका. People will talk like that. They will talk about you in all this. Literally, Bhagavan says this. People will keep 4 shlokas he spends on this. 33rd shloka or 36th shloka. He almost says whatever I said now. Right? People will just laugh at you. People will poke fun at you. So he says, don't do this. For heaven's sake, don't run away from here. For your sake, don't run away from here. And one thing that surely comes out, very clearly comes out when he talks about this, if you see these shlokas in the 2nd chapter from the 31st shloka. See, up to the 30th shloka is the Atma versus Deha. Then 31st shloka to the 38th shloka, the 8 shlokas. Very, very, very clearly, he brings out the idea of conscience. Conscientiousness, that is, being committed to doing duty, regardless of what that duty makes you do. Extreme situation, you're asked to kill your relatives. Okay, most of the time you're not. For most people, regardless of whether they are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, you don't have to kill anybody. You just have to do your work, right? Like us also. Most of the time, we don't have to kill. Rare case, somebody who is, let's say, a jailer, somebody is in the jail, he's got the job of executing those on the death row. He has to kill somebody. A soldier during war has to kill somebody. Very rarely, duties involve that, right? So he says, doesn't matter, do it conscientiously. Do it with conscience that this is duty. Because it is duty, you do it. Don't worry about it. Nothing wrong will happen to you. Okay, so there's no consideration of success and failure. Conscientiousness in duty means freedom from the thinking of success or failure. Don't confuse this with absence of a goal. Okay, sometimes when I say this, people say that how can you do your duty without thinking of success? Then you will be aimless. There'll be no aim to work for. No. Thinking of success and failure means the motivation coming from the thought of success, or demotivation coming from the potential thought of failure. Conscientiousness means doing your duty because it's your duty. Feeling that attachment to the sense of duty, not to the fruit of duty, not to the fruit of activity. Okay, that is conscientiousness. And that's the point he's trying to make again and again. So he says, do your duty with equanimity. Sukha dukkhe samaya kritva labha labhau jaya jayau. So the essence of Samanya Dharma, he says, karma should be done by all because it leads to a happy material existence. And it's based on the yajna system. In the third chapter, he spends time describing the system of yajna. You see, our Vedic system revolves around what is called as yajna. All work is called yajna. The basic meaning of yajna is the fire sacrifice, the sacrifice which we do by lighting a fire and offering things into it. That is what the Brahmanas do. But the entire society does their activities to support the yajna system. The yajna system basically is a system of mutual exchange between the human beings and the devas. The devas are divine beings, and the divine beings have the function of providing for different things in this system. So the human beings depend on them, and they in turn depend on the human beings for making different offerings to them. Right? So he points out that the yajna system should be followed by us. And the Varnashrama system, or in fact, the system of all living beings and their duties, is defined on the basis of what is called as Prakritika Swabhava, or nature, the acquired nature. Prakritik Swabhava means that each of us has a particular nature that we have acquired through countless lifetimes of karma. Because we have gone through so many lifetimes, in each lifetime we have done different types of karma, punya karma, papa karma. We've had different samskaras and what are called as vasana. Vasana means our tendencies. So we have developed these things over time. According to them, we get a birth. And in that birth, we encounter certain duties. Now, when the Varnashrama system is running, a Brahmana's child is meant to be a Brahmana, do the duties of a Brahmana. A Kshatriya's child is meant to do the duties of a Kshatriya, and so on. But now the Varnashrama doesn't work, it doesn't matter. We discover our duty. We discover, okay, because of this particular tendency, I'm attracted towards academics. I want to pursue academics. Or because of some other tendency, I'm attracted towards doing business. Some other tendency, I'm attracted towards playing sports. Whatever it is, we should go by our Prakritik Swabhava. Because if we go by our Prakritik Swabhava, okay, in economics, there's a term called comparative advantage. Somebody who has that nature or that skill will perform best in that. And even though they may be capable of doing something else, a Brahmana may be capable of also doing business. He should not do. He should do his job of doing the yajna. Should not go behind doing business and making money. That's the point he's trying to make. So if you do your duty according to your swabhav, you will do it best and you will get the greatest happiness. You will reap the best happiness possible for you. Okay, that's the point he's trying to make. So with this, I will stop for today. And in the next session, I will go to the topic of contrasting Samanya Dharma versus Paro Dharma. We have 3 more themes, and Karma Yoga is Paro Dharma. It is not Samanya Dharma. Karma Yoga builds on the understanding of karma, which is presented in Samanya Dharma. In Samanya Dharma, everybody does their karma. Now, Karma Yoga starts with that and says, I will do my karma without any attachment to the fruits, and I will offer all the fruits to Bhagavan. I will detach myself from the fruits completely. Okay, with an objective to realize the Atma. So this is Karma Yoga, and we will spend time on it in the next session. It will take some time to discuss and understand Karma Yoga. So for today, I will stop with the 3 themes I've covered. I've spoken about the difference between the Atma and the Deha. I've spoken about how karma is the greatest enemy for us when we try to pursue happiness, and how Samanya Dharma is that which helps us to actually regulate this karma. Because karma is always attacking us, in this material world, Samanya Dharma keeps us regulated and it keeps us happy. It shows us a path to happiness when we are yet to develop the Shraddha required for doing yoga of whatever form. Okay. So I have actually touched upon a lot of ideas, although I've covered only 3 of the themes I have listed here. So if any of you have any doubts. Yeah, just a second. I'm trying out something new today. I have a microphone, a Bluetooth microphone, and I want you to speak into this portion, okay? And let's see if the people online can hear you or not. In the meantime, I'll just change the mic from this one to this before you speak. Just hold on.
Should I test it? If people on, hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, ma'am. So, sir, my question is: we talked about the immovability of the Atma. So, does that mean that Atma is beyond the concept of space, the stationariness when we talked about it?
Otherwise, they can't hear me. Okay, can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Sarthak's question was about the immovability of the Atma. The Atma is described as Achala, right? So, does it mean the Atma does not move in space? Yes, the answer is yes. The Atma does not move in space because space is matter and the Atma is beyond matter. The Atma actually, from the perspective of material movement, is always stationary. It does not move. Nor does the Paramatma move. Both are stationary from the perspective of matter. So all the conception of movement that we have is based on our material conception of space.
So if Atma is beyond the concept of space, then when we talked about pervasiveness, so why do we make a distinction between Jivatmas? That my Jivatma is only within the space of this body, and some other Jivatma is in the space of that body. So if Atma is beyond the concept of space, then there should be only one Atma, not multiple.
The answer is that what we are talking about there when we talk about pervasiveness is the experience of our consciousness. How do we experience our own consciousness? So, me as the Jivatma experiences myself, or I experience myself through this body. I pervade this body because of my attachment to this body. That's all. So it is a conception under the influence of material energy. Because right now I am under the influence of material energy. I am experiencing it in this manner. There it's talking about the experience of pervasiveness. Do you follow? Pervasiveness is phenomenological, means it's an experience. I experience my consciousness through this body, through the parts of this body. For example, I don't experience what's happening in Puneet's body or in Swapnil's body or your body. Because my consciousness is not pervaded to those bodies. My consciousness pervades my body. So there, it is different from immobility. Immobility is about movement in space. This is about pervading the body, the consciousness, experience of consciousness in the body. They are two different things. Think over it. You may not be able to. Later on, you can ask me a follow-up question on that as you think over this. But as you think over it, keep in mind the Atma is Achintya. One second.
Maybe I'm just trying to relate what you said and what sir answered. The first part was that it is absolutely beyond the space. So that is the absolute definition and the existence of Atma. While when you say that it is pervasive, it is the experience that we as uh, humans or we as bodily creatures, right? When we are in this path of spirituality, we experience that it is all pervasive. But these two things are not contradictory at the same time. not illusion, maybe experience. Absolute versus experience, we can say that while you are treading this path, you experience that it is pervasive, all pervasive. But the first part was talking about the absolute definition of um, uh, spirit, Atma. Mhm.
The follow-up question which I had was when we talked about that our Atma is pervading our body, because through our body I experience different things in this world. But say when I'm given anesthesia to a certain part of my body, so then my experience through that part is hindered. So I think that would not mean that Atma is now restricted from that part of area. Or when I sleep, so maybe in deep sleep I would not experience any other what to say, the inputs that any sensory organs get, because I'm in that state. So again, I would not say that my Atma is again what to say, withdrawn from the physical body. So what does
So, what pervasiveness means is the limitations. You see, pervasiveness happens under the influence of material energy. The Atma, because of its attachment, which comes from karma, has this influence of material energy on itself. It's under the influence of material energy. Prakritehe kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvasha. So the Atma is under the influence of Prakriti. Under the influence of Prakriti, it is subject to the limitations that Prakriti imposes on it. So sometimes it may pervade the entire body. Sometimes anesthesia is given. Under the influence of anesthesia, some parts of the body are no longer, it's no longer conscious of those parts of the body. So things could change depending on how the Prakriti has changed its influence on the body.
we talk about pervasiveness of the Atma in the body? So what do we mean? Do we mean that is it in some place in our body, or for example, you once talked about Sri Bhagwan being in the heart, something like that?
Pervasiveness just means the presence of consciousness in the body, being aware that there is something here. I can feel that there is a touch here. That's all. It's as simple as that. Nothing more abstract than that.
How much contribution charity? So I've heard that the acharyas have recommended giving 50% of what you are earning. I just wanted to cross check if you have come across uh, any such number, any such amount. How much earnings should we be giving in charity?
From what I've heard, Sri Rupa Goswami says 25%. I have heard this, but I have not read it somewhere. I'll read and verify if that is true. I have not heard of 50% as a number. I heard that Rupa Goswami says somewhere that 25% of our earnings can be given in charity every month, and 25% can be saved, and then the remaining should be spent on. But I think it ultimately depends on the individual's capacity and his context, current context. If somebody is earning much more and they are living still a simple life, then they can spend less on themselves and give more to support others. So I think it has to be adapted to the individual depending on his context. It's not a hard rule. It's only a guideline. Yeah. According to our capacity, we should decide, individually decide. So ultimately, bhakti is something that comes from the heart, right? And it's guided by intelligence, but comes from the heart. So we have to decide on the context. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about property 4 and property 5.
Hare Krishna, sir. I wanted to ask about property 4 and property 5 in the properties of Atma, sir. So, first of all, it looked very strong literature review kind of thing, sir. So I really appreciate it. And property 4 was, sir, measuring the body. Next slide. Yeah, property 4 of Atma, immeasurability. The Atma is immeasurable. Right. The body is measurable, right? And property 5 is the Atma has no physical manifestation. The body is a gross physical manifestation. And I've also read it and I've also heard it from learned people that the Atma is 1 by 10,000 of a hair pointer. I did not. I think there was an experiment to capture the physical dimensions of Atma or something like that, but I'm not sure about it. I did not read it such in literature. So I just wanted to understand, sir, if Atma is immeasurable and Atma has no physical manifestation, how are we getting this conscious, this idea that Atma is so little, like 1 by 10,000?
The question that it is 1 by 10,000th of the tip of the hair should not be taken as a literal dimension. So it should be taken as only to indicate that the Atma is very subtle. It is more subtle than the smallest thing. The smallest thing we say is Paramanu, for example. The word Paramanu is used to indicate the smallest element of matter. But the Atma is even smaller than that. It is even more subtle than the Paramanu. That is the idea. Okay, so the number 1 by 10,000 should not be taken as a real number. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's a metaphor. Yeah.
So the other thing, while hearing this, I recalled somewhere, and I wanted to just confirm it, sir. Do we have a literature reference where it is said that when the Atma leaves the body, it moves from the crack of the skull or something like that, sir? I heard it. I'm not able to relate where I heard it. I heard it maybe in one of the songs.
Yeah. So this question of where the Atma leaves the body from when it dies, there are different answers to this, and I don't have 100% clarity on this. But I've heard that the yogis can move themselves up through the body. That is, they can choose to leave the body through the top of the skull, or pierce the body through the top of the skull and exit the body. This is something I've heard of. And if the Atma is capable of leaving the body through other parts or not, I think it's a relevant question, but I don't have a clear answer to that right now.
There, again, I'm not don't have the entire details, but it is mentioned in one of the cantos that there are 9 gates in the body, and through which the Atma exits at the end of its journey. And that which gate will it exit from will depend on how much maybe the karma or how much bhakti the person has done, where the person is on the spectrum. Exiting from the top is the most peaceful or easy way, whereas exiting from others is slightly, I mean, the degree of pain varies for the Atma. So,
thank you. That was a response from Apeksha from the Bhagavatam. So yes, she said that through any of the 9 gates of the body, the 9 gates of the body are the 5 the senses that we have, the sense organs, like the mouth, the nostrils, am I right? The 2 ears, the nostrils, then the eyes. The eyes also are included as the gates. No? Yeah. And then in the bottom, we have the anus and the genitals, where we, excrete. the excretory organs, they are also included in the gates of the body. So through the 9 gates, one of the 9 gates, the Atma leaves the body. This is Apeksha's input, and maybe in a future class we can get the actual source and explain it in more detail. It's in the Garuda Puran, Puranjana story in Bhagavatam. Okay, maybe it's in Garuda Puran also. Okay, okay, okay. So we have an input also from Bharat here, who says that in the Garuda Puran it's mentioned somewhere, he has heard it. Apeksha says it's also in the Bhagavatam. We will look at both sources and see if we can get more knowledge on that. The question was about where the Atma leaves the body when it dies, when at the point of death. Yeah.
Sir, is there any where does sorry?
But once I have heard from my father that there lived a yogi nearby to my village, who at the time of his end time he sat on Padmasana, and he made his Atma exit from the skull only. So he was a great yogi. That's what I have heard, but I have not seen him because it was little like in early days of my father. So just wanted to add.
Sir, this is Arunabh here, sir. Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
So where does Atma live in the body, sir? So is there any specific place where it lives in the body?
It is said that the Atma is present in the region of the heart, in the heart region in the body.
The heart is in the body. Okay, sir.
Yes, the heart region in the body.
And so is there any, can we locate it by any chance, by any means?
By yoga. By yoga, you develop control over the self, and you can then elevate yourself through the body. That's described in the path of yoga.
Sir.
Any other online questions from those who are online? Would you like to ask any other questions? So knowledge of the Atma is very interesting, isn't it? And just one second. Most confusing also. It's incomprehensible. It's achintya. Right? Atma is achintya. It's difficult to understand. Yeah. In the meantime, Apeksha gave us an input about the 9 gates of the body. So the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, the 2 ears, that makes it 6, the mouth, 7, and then the anus and the genitals, right? Yeah. It becomes 9. So that's not a gate. You're breaking the wall and going out. Yeah. You're not going out through the proper gate. You're breaking the wall because you've got the qualification, right? People who break the skull and go. Yeah. Okay. Now we have a question from Puneet. One second, Puneet.
So we are very emotionally attached to our family. So our love to our family is atmic love or just the love of a 5 senses?
The love towards our family is not the pure love that is being spoken about in the Bhagavad-gita, not the purest form of love, because it's based on our material identity as so and so, which is a temporary identity. It is in this birth that we relate with those people as what they are, right? So it's not that that love should not be there. The Gita is not saying that. The Gita is only saying that that love should be there in the material world. As we exist, we should exist with love towards others. We should live with Preeti. But we should also know that this Preeti is only a temporary, is only in a temporary platform. It is not in the platform of eternity. So the purest form of love is based on the recognition of each other as Jivatma, as the Atma separate from the body. When that realization is there and love happens through that, then it is pure. Because then it's completely free from all forms of selfishness or possessiveness or any kind of attachment. You see that this person now in this birth is relating to me as a mother, as my son, as my daughter, as my wife, as my sister. But actually, they are just like me, a Jivatma like me. In this birth, they have come to me in this manner. That's all. At the end of this birth, they will no longer be connected to me. It will only be a memory in whoever is alive. And after that, there's no more memory also. Right? In the next birth, you don't remember what happened in the previous birth. Like now, we don't remember what happened in the previous birth. Therefore, it doesn't have Sat in it. There's no Sat property in it. It's Asat. It's only for some time. At the same time, if we are able to see that this everything belongs to Bhagavan, everything is part of Bhagavan, then that love becomes of a different nature. It's no longer possessiveness. There's no possessiveness or what is called as mamata in that. It's a mamata of a different kind. That mamata becomes, I become part of Bhagavan. They are also part of Bhagavan. So that form of love is a superior form of love. Does it answer your question?
I have question from third theme about Samanya Dharma. So I wanted to ask that while following that Samanya Dharma, do we get to follow a prescribed path, or is it just the righteousness? I mean to say that is it listed that this is Samanya Dharma, or is it a byproduct of our activities that we call as Samanya Dharma? Because at the beginning of the theme, it was written material happiness. Righteous materialism, sorry, yes. So righteous materialism. So my question boils down to does righteous materialism lead to Samanya Dharma, or following Samanya Dharma leads to righteous materialism?
I have translated Samanya Dharma as righteous materialism because it is about following one's duties, prescribed duties. All of us are born into a certain social context and we evolve through that context in a particular lifetime. And as we evolve, our duties emerge. Now, in the Varnashrama system, if a child is born in the Varnashrama system and it is properly followed, then automatically the child's duties get defined almost from birth itself. The child's path gets defined and the child has to live by that, right, if it's part of Varnashrama. And at the time when Varnashrama exists, even in the rest of society, which is not following Varnashrama, which is outside Varnashrama, they call Avarniya, like the tribals, for example. The tribals are not part of Varnashrama. But even they have a natural way of living, and that they have even today, because they never had Varnashrama anyway. So they have their own natural way of living and they live by that. That becomes like their prescribed life. That is their dharma. So dharma is living by our natural system, the system into which we are born, which is in accordance with our prakritik swabhav, and living in accordance with that swabhav. That is samanya dharma. So it is so righteousness is built into that. Right and wrong are built into that. Morality is built into it. Do you follow? Yes. So it has to be, a duty has to be done in a particular manner only. It should not be done in some other manner. It's just like today we have duties. For example, as a student, there's a set of guidelines given to you, what is expected of you, and so on. As a professor, there are guidelines given to me, what is expected of me, and so on. If I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then I'm no longer doing right thing, right? I'm doing the wrong thing. If as a professor, I behave like something else, right? I don't do my work, I do some other person's work. Then I'm not doing the right thing, right? So there is morality in that, doing what I'm supposed to do, what I'm expected to do in society. That's all it is, as simple as that. So doing what we are supposed to do in the manner in which it's meant to be done, with our full consciousness in it, and our conscience, both consciousness and conscience, both. involved in it. Is the right thing, is dharma. That is dharma. It sustains. Dharanat dharmaha ityahu. That has the property of sustaining. It sustains society. It sustains everybody. Everybody, because of the way it is designed, there is a give and take, a natural give and take in that system. All the varnas help each other. Nobody exploits anybody. So there is a system of self-sustenance in that. Everything is protected. All the animals also will be happy. The whole system is designed in a manner that is peace in society, complete peace in society. Okay, there's a question from Himanshu in the chat. My question is, as we say that the Atma, after leaving the body, will take another form of life, and also that human life is very valuable, and Atma takes form of human body when it has done some good deeds in past life. So with this logic, can we say the count of Atmas is a constant? Then regarding the same, is there anything from scriptures also that addresses this query? No, there's nothing about the count of Atmas given in the Shastra. The only place where it is ever mentioned about the number of Atmas is it's infinite, means it's Anantaha. There's no finiteness in the number of Atmas mentioned anywhere. So Atma is present, Jivatma is present everywhere in different forms, different life forms, different bodies. Not only on this planet Earth, which we know as Earth, but throughout the universe. Everywhere in the universe, in different bodies, it exists. We cannot see it. Do you have a follow-up question on that, Himanshu?
No, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hari Om, I wanted to say something about the 9 gates that was being discussed.
Yes.
In the Bhagavatam, the 9 gates which come in the Puranjana story, it is not talking about the leaving of Atma from the body. In fact, the 9 gates represent the gates through which the body experiences the different Indriya Sukhas. So the idea of the story is to tell the person. Actually, the story is it's like a lesson being told to a king by sage Narada. So he is telling him that you are still in the Indriya Sukha through this body which has 9 gates. So come out of it and get attached to Bhagavan. So to explain this simple concept, the Puranjana story is told to the king. So nowhere it is talking about the Atma leaving the body through any of those 9 gates in the story, whereas how the Atma leaves the body may be there in Garuda Purana, because Garuda Purana deals with this Atma and Mrityu and all these aspects in detail.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anjana, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. So we in earlier, like a lot of years back, when we had there were particular things that every uh, system was supposed to do. But now, because our society has evolved, the definitions and the suppositions has also become very open. So I agree that as a student, we are supposed to study, progress, and do our duties. But in the modern society, we see a lot of activities that are not core activities of students, but different set of students get involved in different kind of activities, and many a times they defend themselves also saying that um, we are meeting our core results, so we can indulge in or involve in other activities if they are not hurting anybody, but they are not the core activities that they're supposed to do as a student, right? But at the same time, it is not hurting anyone. So would we say that all these kind of activities which are not in the core but are in the periphery, and they are only the activities that have evolved over time, they never used to be the part of maybe Gurukul system or a student as we imagine, right? So they were never a part of their core activities, but because of modernization, it has evolved. So can we say that these kind of activities are something that fall under Samanya Dharma of a student? Like, for example, posting pictures, or for example, socializing, going to parties. So these are not adding to our journeys, and endless such kind of activities which are not hurting anyone, but they were not a part of core duties of a student. So here, when I'm talking about a student life, it is just an example that I want to understand from the evolution part of, you know, thing point of view.
My understanding of dharma is that which sustains. So any activity that is beneficial in the long term, which sustains that person and also the society around that person. It may not be harmful in the short term to someone, but if the activity leads to a long-term harm, then it cannot be dharma. Dharma is that which sustains people in the long term. Okay. For example, eating some, let's say, potato chips, a packet of potato chips, which is considered as junk food, will not harm anyone, right? At least in the short term, it will not. But if the person has a habit of eating potato chips every night before going to bed, then at some point of time, the harmful effects will show. So it becomes adharma. So although it's not harming another person, it's harming that person himself. That also is not in accordance with dharma. Dharma is defined in a manner that nobody is harmed, including that person and the other people, in the long run. In the short run, dharma may look painful. Like I gave you the example of getting up early in the morning on a winter and doing some puja or doing dhyan, whatever it is. So it looks like why this activity is done, where is the happiness in this? But in the long run, that activity gives a lot of happiness because it raises one from Rajoguna, Tamoguna to Sattva-guna. And Sattva-guna is about strength and happiness. So dharma is designed in a manner that it may give short-term happiness, discomfort, but it may give misery in the short term, but it gives happiness in the long run. That is how dharma is designed. So now, if you want to judge if an activity done by anyone, a student or a professor or anybody else, is dharma or not, you must think from this perspective. This can be the test. Yes, this is the test. Yeah. Yes. If it is not just if it is tough, but whether you can convincingly argue or convincingly see that it will benefit in the long run. It is sustainable. So today we talk a lot about sustainability of different practices. So we're actually talking about dharma in a very indirect manner. At least we are talking about it. Even if we are not able to figure out exactly what we should do to make things sustainable, at least we are concerned about it. That's a good sign. So as we go forward, we will figure out, and we have already figured out certain things like carbon pollution. We know is harmful. It's causing climate change. There's a 2-degree rise in the temperature. We speak about things like this. So we are conscious that something adharmic is happening. That's a good thing, right? Yes. Yes. Thank you. I think we really had some good questions today. Shall we close now? We have reached the end time. We'll close for today. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantām Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishno Yat Paramam Padam Parya Aptya Anantarayaya Sarvastamoti Ratra Uttamamahar Bhavati Sarvasyaptyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Apnoti Sarvam Jayati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.